As we continue the wave of the Omicron variant in the province of Ontario and locally, joining me now to speak a little bit about its effects locally from the Cornwall Community Hospital is once again Dr. Lauren Scharf. Welcome back, Dr. Scharf.
Hi there. Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Well, we really appreciate your time, Doctor. We know how busy it is at the Cornwall Community Hospital and how important your work is, so we appreciate you taking the time. So let's start with a little bit about Omicron. I mean, certainly we couldn't have predicted the effects it would have, but we are starting to see record numbers of patients admitted to hospital just because of the sheer number of people being infected with the virus.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's too bad. At the end of November, it really seemed like we were sailing into the post-COVID landscape, and it seemed like the world was going to return to normal. I even went away for the weekend with my daughter and my wife and had a very nice little break. And then by the time we got back, this whole new thing started. So it's definitely changed the game, and it's slammed us right back down into the reality of the pandemic and the hard work and the crowding and the numbers and the volumes and the surgical delays and all the unpleasant stuff that's going along with it. Um, the big thing about Omicron is how contagious it is. So it's been a hard thing to fight because it spreads easily. It's hard to contain it at a hospital. It's hard to contain it anywhere, a school or any sports team or anything. So we're seeing it spread around a lot. And the good news is that vaccination still seems to be a very effective tool in terms of preventing getting Omicron or getting a severe case of Omicron, and especially the vaccination of the booster dose, the third dose. That seems to really, turbo boost the whole immune status of a person. So that's sort of the Omicron situation. We've still got a lot of Omicron in Cornwall. It's definitely we're not past it yet by any stretch. We're hoping that it's stabilized, but we're definitely at the top of it. If it has stabilized, we're at the top of that wave.
Absolutely, and you mentioned, of course, the vaccinations. Certainly, there's a prevailing sort of conception that Omicron is milder than previous forms of the virus. Certainly, we don't know if that's the case or if it's because of the vaccinations, but we are certainly, again, because of that sheer number, we're seeing a lot of people hospitalized with breakthrough cases, but also you mentioned the unvaccinated. So talk to me about those two types that we're seeing at the Cornwall Community Hospital right now in terms of needing care, in terms of those that are unvaccinated, but also those breakthrough cases.
Sure. Well, first of all, in terms of Omicron being milder, I mean, we all hear that a lot on CNN, and I don't know if that's really been scientifically proven. Omicron arrived into a population that was already very vaccinated or had already had a case of COVID. So we call that a very exposed population. And where it first developed in South Africa, it was also a very young community comparatively. The average age of that community is lower than the average age of Cornwall, certainly. So the idea that it's somehow a milder illness, I don't think that that's really a very scientific statement yet. I haven't seen any good proof of that. Definitely, it's more transmissible. And by the way, we still have Delta around. So even though Omicron, we sort of are biased to the optimistic idea that it's milder, you can still get Delta. There's still a lot of Delta in Eastern Ontario. So we're still seeing a lot of people getting sick with it. If you get a case of COVID, you're more likely to be sick if you have a bad immune system. And people who have a immunocompromised status are usually people who are doing chemotherapy, or they're on specific types of medications that intentionally reduce their immune system. So people who have a kidney transplant, for example, there are some patients who are treated with high doses of cortisone for various autoimmune problems. So anybody who's in one of these situations, of course, patients who have HIV, these patients run the risk of getting sicker, whether they're vaccinated or not. The vaccine is still beneficial to them. In fact, it may be more important for them. But if they get COVID, they run a risk of having a severe course of illness. So those are the patients, one of the groups of the patients we worry about. And then unvaccinated people, of course, are very likely to catch Omicron if they're around a case of it, because it's so transmissible. So if you haven't had the vaccine, and your kid comes home from school with Omicron, you can pretty much be sure you're going to get Omicron. I can't imagine not getting it. So those are the two groups you asked about. But just to be very clear, the vaccine still has an enormous benefit. You don't want to throw your arms up and say, oh well, if you can get it anyways, what's the point of the vaccine? That's not at all the case. A lot of things we do in life are done to make us safer, and things don't come with guarantees. I think that one of my pet causes, one of the things I was actually passionate about before the pandemic, it's hard to even remember what life was like, but I was always a very big bicycle helmet advocate, and I believe in bicycle helmets being worn by anybody who is able to ride a bicycle, because if you have an accident, it reduces the risk of a serious head intracranial injury by about 85%, which is a huge effect. So, but it doesn't guarantee you won't have a head injury that will be very serious. So it's like a bicycle helmet. It really helps make you safer, and it really does have a huge benefit. But like a bicycle helmet, it doesn't guarantee anything. So, but if everybody wore a bicycle helmet, one thing is for sure, we'd see a lot fewer people that had serious head injuries. And if everybody had a vaccine, we'd have a lot fewer serious cases of COVID. And, the tragedy of COVID right now, sorry, I hope I'm not rambling on too much, but the tragedy of COVID right now, what's killing me is that it's not allowing us to do the stuff we need to do here at the hospital. We're having to delay surgeries. We're having to postpone tests. There are people out there waiting to have their cancers operated on and staged, and initiating therapy, and people suffering with hip pain, waiting for hip surgery. So there's a lot of people whose treatments are being affected because we're just so busy taking care of patients with COVID right now. So that's my situation with vaccines. Please, if everybody had a vaccine, we would be in much better shape.
Absolutely. It doesn't get much clearer than that. And I want to talk a little bit on that last point as well. You talk about the delays of surgeries and the other ripple effects of this. And of course, obviously, the more vaccinated people, you just said it, the less strain on the resources. I want to talk a little bit about those resources because, again, I think a lot of people, we don't realize what goes into treating COVID patients at the hospital. The resources, not both in terms of medical and human resources. Certainly, I know off camera, you're telling me you're on call right now. When people have issues breathing, you're the one that has to run and help them. So talk to me a little bit about that strain on the resources.
Yeah. Well, my day-to-day is actually very interesting. So part of our strategy with controlling COVID is to make sure that we're very careful with patients that have COVID. And one of the things we have to be very careful about is when patients get short of breath and we start giving them certain medications or helping them breathe. We don't want to spread the COVID. So we have designated people in the hospital every day now who respond to patients anywhere in the hospital who are needing more oxygen or feeling increasingly short of breath. And we're doing that really to just trying to make sure that we do a good job with infection control. And we call those, these controlled code situations where everybody who responds has special training on how to not only respond to what's wrong with the patient, but keep other patients and hospital staff safe. So that's what I'm doing today. So the whole landscape of COVID has changed what we're all doing. I guess on a positive note, it's definitely made us do a lot better job with, washing our hands and wearing masks and wearing face shields. So a lot of the things we're doing, it's been a very nice sort of reminder of how important it is. But yeah, we're wearing our masks all day long and our gowns. And so it gets a little bit tired. There was, I was on Facebook this morning, somebody had a post from the New Yorker magazine about how they had to take a flight from Los Angeles to New York and they made them wear a mask for 5 hours straight. Well, I could tell you, we have over 1,000 employees here that are wearing their masks for their whole shift for 2 years now. And the masks that we wear in the emergency room and when we deal with patients are these masks that are N95 masks, and they have double elastic straps, and they stick to your face very hard. They really push your face. and leave marks on it. So it's definitely not fun, but it is extremely important, of course. So that's some of the ways work has changed. What I can tell you though is that our staff have really been superstars. We've had staff get sick. We've had staff like everybody, they have sick children at home. They have sick parents. So they're all dealing with their own realities of life, but they've been resilient and professional. They've had to deal with being redeployed and reassigned to different types of work. We've taken staff that usually work in the operating room and put them in the emergency room, and we've changed things that people are being asked to do. We put them in situations where they might catch COVID, right? So, I mean, nobody wants to even walk past somebody with COVID when you go to Costco. So I mean, telling a nurse that she has to take care of 3 COVID patients and administer their medications every 2 hours, and it is a risk to us. But I'm very proud of the job we're all doing, and by using our protective equipment properly and wearing our masks and our gloves, and the fact that we're all fully vaccinated has helped keep us safe. So we're not. So what we're dealing with the most right now at the hospital are these large numbers of cases that are being admitted, and the fact that we're having to reassign staff to different areas. So the staff are dealing with it. The patients are receiving the emergency care that they need, but it's affecting their other stuff. And we're really looking forward to getting past this.
Absolutely, and certainly as a community we are as well. But I know I'm thankful for the role that you and the staff at CCH are playing in this. Not to put you on the spot, but I know right before the interview you apologized and said, "I'm sorry, I have a mark on my face. I just took off my N95." It just makes it hit home, right? What our frontline staff is going through on a daily basis, and certainly that message is so important. That the best way we can help our frontline workers, if we haven't already, is to go out and get those shots, whether it's first, second, third, and all 3. So on that note, Doctor, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate you taking the time. Such an important message to get out there to the community.
Thanks for having me. And again, just to give the community the message that we're here for you. If you need to be here, it's a safe place to come. And the staff that I'm talking about, we're still all really proud to be working here, and we're here for the community. So thanks for having me, and it's really a pleasure again.
And I'm pleased to be joined now by the new chair and vice chair of the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, Councillor Martin Lang and Deputy Mayor David Smith. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Gabriel.
It's great to have you both here, and we'll start with you, Councillor Lang. You're stepping into a new role this year after, I believe, the past 2 years you were in that vice chair role. You've stepped up to the plate and you've taken on the chair. So let's talk a little bit about your interest in expanding your role with the RRCA.
Thanks, Gabriel. I've enjoyed the last 2 years as chair, and I'd really like to say thank you to the board for allowing me the opportunity to step up as chair. I think it's kind of a natural progression, and I'll do my best to fill that role. And I guess the reason I really wanted to do this and feel it's important, as a farmer for the last, I'm going to say 40 plus years, doesn't give too much away on my age, but I've realized the importance of the environment. It's very high on my my list of priorities, and the Conservation Authority does a lot of things, important things to look after the environment. provides services to municipalities such as, flood forecasting and warning, low water response, sustainable planning. They promote incentives for agriculture best management practice to the farm community itself. So to me, this is an opportunity to serve and to help encourage all that work. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. And again, thank you for taking on that role. It is very important. And Deputy Mayor Smith, you've been involved with, again, the committee for a long time, but now you're taking on Vice Chair. Let's talk about your decision to, again, continue with the RRCA, but also take on a new role.
Thanks, Gabriel. That's right. I've been with the RRC board now for 7 years, so I've managed to get a bit of experience, and I'm glad to have this seat as a Vice Chair. We have a great team this term, and on the RRCA board, myself, past Chair Mayor Brian McGillis, he's from South Stormont as well. Councillor Lang, our new chair, I'm very happy to see that he's got this position. I think he's going to be great for the RRCA. We also have Mayor Elia Warden from South Glengarry, and there's been councillors Claude McIntosh, Carolyn Hebert from the city of Cornwall, Councillor Jacques Massé from North Glengarry, and Robert Lefebvre from North Stormont. It's a really good team.
Definitely a good team, and obviously when we have sort of this changeover, it's a chance to look ahead, but also to look back. Obviously, 2021 was an eventful year in many areas, but certainly the RRCA's great work continued. What are some of the highlights for the both of you?
I guess I can start. It's pretty hard, and nobody's going to want to hear it, but it's hard to talk about the past year without talking about the pandemic a certain amount. And I won't go into detail, but everybody knows, offices were open, never closed, people were working from home. So just want to say really proud and thankful for what our staff has stepped up this last year and done. Through it all, I mean, they've handled a record number of permit applications and so forth. So, it wasn't like the work dropped off because of the pandemic. They did more work than ever. And we continued with all of our, our regular mandated things, the source water protection and all these things. They all continued on. We're able to work fairly seamlessly. So a big thank you to staff and for doing the work and continue that on. And something else that was kind of started just before this and continued on through last year was partnering with farmers for best management practices. And some of the work wasn't able to go ahead quite as planned with some of the breakout groups and this sort of thing, but it was done over Zoom and it worked. So a big thank you for everybody for all they did last year to get us to this point.
Deputy Mayor Smith, any highlights for you?
I just thought I'd like to add that we did plant 65,000 trees last year. And as a matter of fact, early last spring, we planted our 1 millionth tree. I'm very proud to have been part of that. It seems to be one of the big questions that we get in our conservation area. And as a matter of fact, I'm proud to say that I planted some of those trees myself last year, and my back's still sore, but it was well worth the day. Anyway, I think the important success as well is when you look back at our three conservation areas, Cooper Marsh, Charlottenburg Park, and Grace Creek. Last year, we had 175,000 visitors in a pandemic season at these three spots. I think local residents really enjoyed having beautiful local spaces to disconnect and step into the nature, especially over these last 2 years. People may not know this, but the RRCA actually owns and conserves 1,664 acres of environmentally friendly land, and it keeps growing. Last year, South Stormont alone donated 100-acre wetland to the RRCA for permanent conservation. I'm very proud to say from South Stormont that we're able to help.
Absolutely, and I think as a community we should be proud of that as well, and grateful to have the RRCA and the land that is being protected. So now when we look ahead, again we'll start with you, Councillor Lang, but when we look ahead to 2022, what are going to be some of the priorities for the board?
Well, as everyone else, I am hopeful in 2022 we get some pandemic relief, that things can start to get a little bit back to normal and make things a little easier for staff and for our residents that want to access our services and so forth. So that's a big wish list for me on 2022, and we will continue to provide our core services. We hope to expand our partnerships, with the local farming community, and keep those things working and moving forward. And that's a big one for me as well. And as David mentioned, with the 65,000 trees last year, I'd like to see us continue. We're pretty sure we will continue to do the 65,000. Maybe we can beat that. And we'd like to, look forward to that in the spring, getting trees planted with our municipal partners, our private partners. And we'll be offering a tree giveaway this year. Residents stay tuned, and you'll hear an announcement in March for our annual tree giveaway.
Excellent. And Deputy Mayor Smith, what are you hoping to see in 2022?
Well, first of all, I just want to say Chair Lang is a very optimistic person, and he's not only hoping for the best, he's expecting the best at the year coming. And I'm 100% behind him, because I think we all have the same attitude. But I'm looking forward to the Grace Creek Marina and Charlottenburg Park reopening in the spring this year. We're proud to provide these outdoor recreation opportunities to the community. I'm hopeful that COVID-19 restrictions will not prevent Cooper Marsh Conservation Area Visitor Center from reopening this spring. And our staff are looking forward to greeting visitors at the center and showcasing some of the exciting new initiatives, such as Cooper Marsh Biodiversity Project.
Wonderful. And I'll sort of roll two questions in one here, but if there's one thing that you wanted people to know about the RRCA, or something that the community can do to continue to support it, and again, we'll start with you, Chair Lang, what would that be?
You'll see that there's 4 rural municipalities in Eastern Ontario that the RCA has their jurisdiction, as well as the city of Cornwall. And I just wonder if maybe people realize that, we're, as directors and board members and chair and vice chair, we're there representing everyone in that area. There's thousands of private landowners in that area. There's, looking at that area, I would say there's likely, just knowing the farm community, there's likely 1,000+ farmers in that area. And that area encompasses, to me, I would say close to 400,000 acres. So I just want people to realize that the size and scope of what we're trying to do there in that 400,000 acre area, with lots of private landowners, thousands of them, rural municipalities, the city of Cornwall, a decent sized city of close to 50,000 people. And it's all interconnected. And we're trying to make, the best use of everything and make sure the environment in that area is all kind of looked after as one area. So that's something I'm pretty proud of that we do as Raisin Region. One of the reasons I'm happy to be involved with it.
Absolutely. And Deputy Mayor Smith, your final thoughts, something that people might not know, or ways that we can help?
Well, I guess I can say the RRCA is built around teamwork and partnerships. The RRCA's mission is about working together, guiding our communities to protect, enhance, and restore the environment in a way that's practical and beneficial for the people as well as the environment. So what exactly does that mean? Well, if you're planning a development project by a water course, get in touch with our helpful staff. They'll make the permit process as easy as possible for you. If you've got idle land, contact our office and speak with our stewardship staff to see if you can enhance our forest cover by planting trees on their property. And we can probably surpass that $65,000 tree limit that we did last year. The easiest way to find out about our upcoming opportunities right now, I'd say, is to follow us on social media. Just search for @Raisin Region. You can also visit our website at rr.ca, on.ca, and sign up for our monthly newsletter. It's a great read.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you both once again for joining us. It's always great to talk about the RRCA and the great things that are being done. Again, it's a gem in our community that's doing great work, and we're so lucky to have those areas as well. So congratulations on your new roles, and best of luck in 2022.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you for your time too. Have a good day.